My sister-in-law moved in to help with the kids but turned out to be an alcoholic. She put our children at risk and tore our family apart. I, 32F, have been married to my husband Kevin, 35M, for 8 years. We met during our college years when I was a sophomore and he was a senior. It was one of those chance encounters. I literally bumped into him at the library, spilling my coffee all over his notes. Mortified, I offered to buy him dinner as an apology. One dinner turned into many, and before we knew it, we were inseparable. We got married 2 years after I graduated, in a small ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. Kevin had just started his career in finance, and I was working as a junior copywriter at an advertising agency. We were young, in love, and ready to take on the world together. Fast forward a few years, and we now have 2 beautiful children, Donna, 6F, and Sandy, 4M. Donna is our little artist, always covered in paint or marker. She's sensitive and intuitive, often picking up on the smallest changes in mood around her. Sandy, on the other hand, is our little daredevil. He's always climbing, jumping, and running, giving us minor heart attacks on a daily basis. Juggling our careers and family life has always been a challenge. Kevin's job in finance often requires long hours and occasional weekend work, while my role in advertising can be demanding, especially during campaign seasons. We've managed to make it work, though, thanks to a great daycare and occasional help from Kevin's parents, Linda, 60F, and Robert, 62F, who live nearby. Kevin comes from a close-knit family. He has one younger sister, Ella, 29F, who has always been the free spirit of the family. While Kevin followed a more traditional path, college, career, marriage, kids, Ella was always the one to take the road less traveled. After college, where she majored in English literature, she decided to move to Japan to teach English. I remember the day she told us about her plans. It was at a family barbecue, just a few months after Donna was born. Ella had always been great with Donna, always ready with a funny face or a silly song to make her laugh. When she announced her decision to move across the world, I felt a mix of admiration for her bravery and sadness that she'd be so far away from Donna. For the past 6 years, Ella has been living abroad, first in Japan and then hopping around Southeast Asia. She'd come home for holidays, bringing exotic gifts and fascinating stories. The kids adored her visits, always begging for one more story about her adventures. Last month, Ella moved back to our city. She said she was ready for a change and wanted to pursue a different career path. When she first arrived, she stayed with Kevin's parents for a couple of weeks while looking for an apartment and job. During a family dinner at Kevin's parents' house, Ella mentioned how difficult it was to find an affordable place to live in our city. She joked about how nice it would be to have a built-in babysitter if she lived with us. I didn't think much of it at the time, but Kevin brought it up on our drive home. He suggested that we could offer Ella our spare room for a few months while she got settled. Kevin argued that it would be a win-win situation. Ella would have a place to stay, and we'd have help with the kids. I was hesitant at first, remembering how chaotic it was when my own sister, Margie, 30F, stayed with us for a month last year. Margie had just gone through a tough breakup and needed a place to stay while she found a new apartment. While I loved having her around, it was challenging to suddenly have another adult in our space. Our routines were disrupted, and there were a few awkward moments when Margie's late-night Netflix binges kept us awake. But Kevin was so excited about the idea of Ella staying with us that I eventually agreed, thinking it might be nice for the kids to spend more time with their aunt. Plus, Ella had always been so good with them during her visits. I thought maybe this time would be different from when Margie stayed with us. We invited Ella over for dinner the following weekend and made the offer. She was thrilled and couldn't stop thanking us. We set some ground rules: she'd pay a small amount for rent and utilities, help with household chores, and assist with the kids when needed. Ella agreed to everything enthusiastically. The first few weeks were great. Ella was a big help with the kids, often taking them to the park or helping with homework. She kept the house tidy and even cooked dinner a few times a week. Kevin and I were able to have more date nights, which was a refreshing change. We went to that new Italian restaurant we'd been wanting to try, saw a couple of movies, and even went to a concert, things we hadn't done in ages. However, things started to change about a month into Ella's stay. She began spending more time in her room and less time with the family. When she did interact with us, she seemed irritable and short-tempered, especially with the kids. Donna came to me in tears one day, saying Aunt Ella had yelled at her for spilling juice on the carpet. I tried to talk to Ella about it, but she brushed me off, saying she was just stressed about job hunting. I let it go, hoping things would improve once she found work. I remembered how stressed I was when I was between jobs a few years ago, so I tried to be understanding. But they didn't improve. Ella finally got a job at a local marketing firm, but her mood only seemed to worsen. She started coming home late, often smelling of alcohol. She'd sleep in on weekends, leaving us to deal with the kids' morning routine despite our agreement that she'd help. I started noticing other changes too. Ella, who had always been health conscious and into yoga, started eating a lot of junk food and stopped exercising. She'd snap at the kids for small things, like leaving toys on the floor or talking too loudly while she was watching TV. The final straw came last week. I came home early from work with a migraine and found Ella lounging on the couch, watching TV while the kids were running wild. The house was a mess, with toys scattered everywhere and dishes piled in the sink. When I asked Ella why she hadn't at least tried to tidy up, she snapped at me. She said she wasn't our live-in maid and that she was tired of being expected to take care of our kids. I was shocked. I reminded her of our agreement, but she just rolled her eyes and stormed off to her room. I called Kevin at work and explained what had happened. He seemed surprised but said he talked to Ella when he got home. That evening, I overheard them arguing in the kitchen. Ella was yelling about how we were taking advantage of her, while Kevin tried to calm her down. The next day, Ella acted like nothing had happened. She was all smiles with the kids and even offered to make dinner. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, unsure of how to address the situation. Kevin thinks we should give her more time, saying she's probably just going through a rough patch. He reminded me of how supportive Ella was when we were going through our own tough times. A few years ago, Kevin lost his job during company-wide layoffs. It was a stressful time for us, with a toddler and a newborn to take care of. Ella, despite being in Japan at the time, called us regularly to check in and even sent us money to help with expenses. But I'm at my wit's end. Living with Ella has become more stressful than helpful, and I'm worried about how her mood swings are affecting our kids. Donna has become more withdrawn, often preferring to play alone in her room rather than in the living room where Ella might be. Sandy has started acting out more, throwing tantrums over small things, behavior we hadn't seen from him in months. I want to ask Ella to move out, but I'm afraid of causing a rift in the family. Kevin is very close to his sister, and I don't want to be seen as the bad guy. At the same time, I can't continue living like this. Our home doesn't feel like our home anymore. I've tried talking to my own sister Margie about it, but she's in the middle of planning her wedding and hasn't been very available. My parents live on the other side of the country, so they're not really in a position to offer practical help. Kevin's parents have noticed that something's off, but they haven't said anything directly. I caught Linda giving Ella a concerned look at our last family dinner when Ella snapped at Sandy for accidentally knocking over his juice. Am I overreacting? Should I give Ella more time to adjust, or is it reasonable to ask her to leave? How do I approach this without damaging my relationship with Kevin and his family? I feel stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I'm not sure what to do next. Update 1: It's been about 3 weeks since my original post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It really helped me gain perspective on the situation. After reading your comments, I realized I needed to have a serious conversation with Kevin about Ella's behavior and its impact on our family. I sat him down one evening after the kids were in bed and laid out all my concerns. I showed him Donna's drawings from school, where she had depicted Aunt Ella as an angry monster. That seemed to finally open his eyes to how serious the situation had become. Kevin agreed that we needed to address the issue with Ella directly. We decided to talk to her together the following weekend, giving us time to plan our approach. Kevin suggested we have the conversation at a neutral location, like the park where we used to have family picnics when Ella visited from Japan. He thought it might help keep things calm and remind Ella of happier times with our family. However, things took an unexpected turn before we could have that conversation. Last Friday, I got a call from Sandy's preschool. He had a high fever and needed to be picked up. I couldn't leave work. I was in the middle of a crucial client presentation, so I called Ella, who was supposed to be home. She didn't answer. I tried several times before finally calling Kevin, who had to leave an important meeting to get Sandy. When Kevin arrived home with Sandy, he found Ella passed out on the couch with empty wine bottles scattered around. He was furious. He woke her up and demanded an explanation. Ella, still half drunk, started crying and admitted she had been struggling with alcohol abuse for the past year. Apparently, her teaching job in Japan had ended because of her drinking problem. She had been fired after showing up to class drunk multiple times. The stories about her travels in Southeast Asia? They were mostly fabricated. She had spent most of that time bouncing between temporary jobs and cheap hostels, drinking heavily to cope with her depression and feelings of failure. She had come home hoping to get her life back on track, thinking that being around family would help her stay sober. But the stress of job hunting and adapting to life back home had triggered her drinking again. Kevin was shocked. He had no idea about Ella's addiction. All those times she had called to check on us during Kevin's unemployment, all those stories about her adventures abroad, it was hard for him to reconcile that with the reality of Ella's struggles. Ella begged him not to tell their parents, promising she would get help. Kevin, torn between anger and concern for his sister, agreed to keep it quiet for now but insisted she leave our house immediately. He helped her pack her things and took her to a hotel, telling her to check into a rehab facility if she really wanted to change. When I got home that evening, Kevin told me everything. We were both reeling from the revelation. All the strange behavior, mood swings, and irresponsibility suddenly made sense. We felt guilty for not recognizing the signs earlier, but we were also angry that Ella had put our children at risk. The next day, we sat down with Donna and Sandy to explain that Aunt Ella had to leave because she was sick and needed special doctors to help her get better. It was a difficult conversation. Donna asked if it was because of her spilled juice, and it broke my heart to realize how much she had internalized Ella's erratic behavior. We reassured both kids that it wasn't their fault and that we loved them very much. Kevin's parents called us the next day, confused about why Ella had suddenly moved out. We decided to tell them the truth, feeling they needed to know about their daughter's struggle. They were devastated but grateful we had told them. Linda broke down in tears, blaming herself for not noticing something was wrong. Robert was quieter, but I could see the pain in his eyes. As for Ella, she checked into a 30-day rehab program the day after leaving our house. Kevin has been in touch with her therapist, who confirmed she's committed to the program. The therapist suggested we all attend family therapy sessions once Ella is further along in her recovery, to help us process this as a family. This whole experience has been emotionally draining for all of us. Kevin and I are trying to process our feelings of betrayal and concern for Ella, while also focusing on helping our kids feel safe and secure again. We've decided to start family therapy to help us all cope with the situation. Donna has been having nightmares, often waking up crying and asking for us to check if Ella is still in the house. Sandy has become clingy, not wanting to go to preschool and throwing tantrums when we try to leave him with a babysitter. We're doing our best to reassure them and maintain as much normalcy as possible. I'm still angry at Ella for putting us through this, but I'm trying to remember that addiction is a disease. At the same time, I'm relieved that she's out of our house and getting the help she needs. Our home feels like ours again, and despite the challenges with the kids, there's a sense of peace that had been missing for months. Kevin and I have agreed that while we'll support Ella's recovery from a distance, we won't be offering her a place to stay again. Our priority has to be our children and our own mental health. We're taking it one day at a time, focusing on rebuilding our family's sense of security and trust. Thank you all again for your support. This situation turned out to be much more complex than I initially thought, but I'm grateful we discovered the truth before something worse happened. We have a long road ahead of us, but I'm hopeful that with time and effort, we'll all come out stronger on the other side. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments in our situation with Ella. Ella completed her 30-day rehab program and has since moved into a sober living facility. Kevin has been in regular contact with her, and he says she seems committed to her sobriety. She's attending daily AA meetings and has started seeing a therapist twice a week. From what Kevin tells me, Ella is finally starting to open up about the events that led to her addiction, including some traumatic experiences she had while traveling that she had never shared with anyone before. About 3 weeks ago, Ella reached out to me directly for the first time since leaving our house. She sent a long email apologizing for her behavior and the stress she caused our family. She acknowledged the risk she put our children in and expressed deep remorse for betraying our trust. In her email, Ella also shared some of her experiences from the past few years that she had kept hidden. She wrote about feeling lost and directionless after college, how teaching in Japan had initially seemed like a dream come true but quickly turned into a nightmare as she struggled with the language barrier and cultural differences. She described turning to alcohol to cope with her loneliness and feelings of inadequacy, and how quickly it spiraled out of control. While I appreciated her apology and her honesty, I'm still processing my feelings about the whole situation. Part of me wants to forgive her and welcome her back into our lives with open arms, remembering the close relationship we once had. But another part of me is still hurt and angry, especially when I see the ongoing effects her actions have had on our children. Kevin and I have been attending family therapy sessions, both with and without the kids. It's been helpful in dealing with the aftermath of Ella's day and the revelation of her addiction. Our therapist has been great in giving us tools to help the kids work through their feelings and rebuild their sense of security. Donna has been having some anxiety issues, often worried that people she loves will suddenly leave like Aunt Ella did. She's been having trouble concentrating in school, and her teacher recently expressed concern about her becoming withdrawn during class. We've started having special one-on-one time with Donna each day, where she can talk about her feelings or just enjoy undivided attention from one of us. Sandy, on the other hand, has been acting up more. He's had a few incidents at preschool where he's lashed out at other kids, something that never happened before. Our therapist thinks it's his way of expressing the confusion and anger he's feeling but doesn't know how to put into words. We've been working on helping him identify and express his emotions in healthier ways. Last week, Ella asked if she could see the kids. Kevin and I had a long discussion about it and decided it wasn't the right time. We feel that Ella needs to focus on her recovery, and the kids need more time to process everything that happened. We explained this to Ella, and while she was disappointed, she said she understood. She sent the kids some books and art supplies with a note saying she was thinking of them, which I thought was a nice gesture. Kevin's parents have been struggling with Ella's addiction. They've been attending Al-Anon meetings and trying to educate themselves about how best to support Ella without enabling her. It's been a learning process for all of us. Linda has been calling more often, sometimes just to talk or to ask how the kids are doing. I think she feels guilty for not noticing Ella's problems earlier and is trying to make up for it by being more present for us. On a positive note, our home life has significantly improved since Ella left. Kevin and I have been making a conscious effort to spend more quality time with the kids. We've started a new tradition of family game nights every Friday, which the kids absolutely love. It's been nice to see smiles and hear laughter in our house again. We've also been trying to create more structure and routine for the kids, which our therapist suggested might help them feel more secure. We have a big calendar in the kitchen now where we mark all our activities and plans. Donna especially seems to find comfort in knowing what to expect each day. As for me, I've been working on setting better boundaries. This experience has taught me the importance of trusting my instincts and speaking up when something doesn't feel right. Kevin and I have had many conversations about this, and he's been supportive of my efforts to be more assertive. I've also started journaling as a way to process my thoughts and feelings about everything that's happened. It's been surprisingly helpful in sorting through the complex emotions I've been experiencing. While the situation with Ella is far from resolved, I feel like our family is on a path to healing. We're taking it one day at a time, focusing on our kids' well-being and our own mental health. Thank you all for your continued support and advice throughout this challenging time. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments in our family situation. Ella has now been sober for 8 months. She's still living in the sober house but has started looking for her own apartment. She's been working part-time at a local coffee shop and volunteering at an animal shelter. Kevin says she seems happier and more stable than he's seen her in years. About 2 months ago, we finally agreed to let Ella see the kids. We arranged a meeting in a neutral location, a local park where we used to have family picnics. Kevin and I were both present, and we kept it short, about an hour. The kids were initially shy, but they warmed up to Ella as they played on the playground. Ella was patient and gentle with them, which was a relief to see. Since then, we've had a few more supervised visits. Each time, Ella has been punctual, sober, and engaged with the kids. She's been respectful of our boundaries and hasn't pushed for more than we're comfortable with. It's a stark contrast to her behavior when she was living with us, and it's given me hope that she's genuinely committed to her recovery. Donna and Sandy have been doing much better. The family therapy sessions have really helped, and Donna's anxiety has significantly decreased. She's back to her chatty, creative self at school, and her nightmares have become less frequent. Sandy's behavior has improved too. He's made new friends at preschool and hasn't had any incidents of lashing out in months. Kevin and I have grown closer through this experience. We've learned to communicate more openly and to present a united front when it comes to family decisions. Our weekly date nights have become sacred time for us to reconnect and check in with each other. As for me, I've been working on forgiveness. It hasn't been easy, but I'm trying to let go of the anger I held towards Ella. Seeing her efforts in recovery and the positive changes she's made has helped. I'm not ready to fully trust her yet, but I'm open to rebuilding our relationship slowly. Kevin's parents have been incredibly supportive throughout this process. They've respected our decisions regarding Ella's interactions with the kids and have been a great source of help when we've needed it. They've also been working on their own issues in therapy, which I think has been good for the whole family. Looking back on this whole experience, I'm amazed at how much our family has grown and changed. While I would never wish for the challenges we faced, I can see how they've made us stronger and more resilient as a family unit. We're cautiously optimistic about the future. Ella's recovery is still ongoing, and we know there may be bumps in the road ahead. But we're better equipped now to handle whatever comes our way. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this journey. It's meant more than you know.